All right, thank you. Let the minutes reflect all members are present. We have a full attendance today, so with that, we'll start.
That's an improvement from last meeting.
Yes, I can't throw stones on that one. So let's start with the approval of the minutes from the August 1st meeting. Those were presented. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
I make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Appreciate it. Any further comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, and item 2 would be approval of the minutes from the September 5th meeting. And again, I'll ask if there are any, doesn't look like there's too much involved in those minutes, other than a reflection that there was no quorum, so those that were present, I'll ask if you'd make that motion to approve and second those.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Welcome to our visitors today. Good to see you. Let's dive into our monthly EMS report. We'll start with, we'll do both July and August, but however you wish to proceed. How are you today?
Good, how are you guys?
Good, thank you.
So I'll kind of give a report on both of the last months. Things are pretty consistent between the two of them, truthfully. Run volume has been consistent, what we have seen over the last several years. One of the things that we are seeing is that the flu season typically was starting late September and then into October. But we actually started seeing a little bit of flu and some pretty sick medical patients earlier in the kind of fall, winter area where we typically would expect to see them. So not so much of that in July specifically, but in August we did see that. We saw the acuity of patients getting higher. They required a little bit more assistance pre-hospital before we got to the hospital. But as you go through the numbers and you kind of see the reflection, you'll see that they were able to still be taken care of here at our local facilities and keeping people closer to home, which obviously is a huge component of our hospital and trying to support that process. So you'll see the numbers as they kind of reflect. Again, we're expected to be higher in our total year over numbers than we have had in previous years. We're expecting a lot of that is just from influx of just population and things like that. Time's pretty consistent again. I know I say that every month, but I really am really proud of our staff. They take getting to the emergency very serious. Unfortunately, during the month of July, end of July, first part of August, there was an unfortunate accident that happened in a county north of us, and it resulted in one EMT unfortunately dying in that accident and another paramedic being seriously injured. And one of the conversation pieces that have come out of that accident is talking about response times and how important it is to make sure that we're getting to a call safely. And we've really focused on that safety piece, and I know Chief has talked to his staff about that as well. And it's just something that is yes, we talk about these numbers and we want to make sure that our responses are appropriate, but we also want to make sure that they're safe in those situations. So you'll see those numbers reflected there, and then the last 2 pages of that report is kind of where those trucks are coming from. Again, all consistent numbers. During the month of July and August, it was a very huge PR month for us, both of them. We were out at the county fair the entire week providing care, not up in the fair area just as much, and we were also providing down at the events down on the bottom. So in the evening, you would have saw 2 of our ambulances there helping and making sure everybody was safe out there. And then we had the ski national tournaments, as everybody here is very much aware. And we're out there all weekend, and then we had Family Safety Day. So a lot of prevention, a lot of PR, a lot of talking about health and safety and focusing on getting people into the school season and getting people into focusing on themselves and kind of getting back into that lifestyle. So that was pretty much our month of July and August.
Questions? All right, thank you. All right. CARES update, September. Chris?
Yes, sir. So I believe you have in your packet the numbers for the last monthly meeting, but I did hand out some papers just before we started this meeting. I think, we're just getting, I say this every month, it seems cliche at this point, but it seems like we're getting busier and busier. We're working hand in hand with some other entities that are trying to do some different ideas. We've met with the Warsaw Police Department to talk to them about some ideas that we have with them. The Sheriff's Department talked about how CARES can come alongside them and help them with some programs they're currently working on. We did this about 2 weeks ago, I think it was. We did a soft launch of the resource website that I've been talking about for quite a while. The ladies are still not completely happy with it, but it's out there. It's caresresources.com. Anybody can go there. There, on all of our literature, there is the QR code you can scan with a smartphone and take you right to that website. But if you need the website itself, it's caresresources.com. And there's also, I believe the phone app is up, but I'm not positive about that. I know that's coming as well. And that was thanks to a grant that we got through the Kosciuszko County Community Foundation. That we were able to do that.
Chris, these reports, the one in our packet, this is September report and it shows August highlights. The one that you handed out is the October report.
It's for September. Those are the
Right,
numbers.
but it shows August highlights down. It's printed, it says August highlights. I assumed it was September.
It is September.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think she has this as a template, and she just didn't change the mark.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Questions? You've got, obviously, a second resource person now.
We do. Tanya came on board, and she's really hit the ground running. If we have a situation where we think two people should go for safety, that allows the ladies go, or Michaela and Tanya, or if they think I need to go to one of their places, I do that. Just to make sure that safety is always the first thing. We don't want anybody getting hurt on either end. But we've worked really hard with Chief Mayo kind of offering some insight on what he thinks that should look like, and then working with the Sheriff's Office on what they think, just to keep us safe. And then we've also met with Warsaw PD to do the same thing. So I think that's the ultimate guide for a lot of what we're doing, is make sure we're serving the public but staying safe while we're doing it. So I think it's working out pretty well.
All right. Again, questions? All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move into the monthly expenditure reports. We'll start with July. Yes, I did. I skipped that. Back to item 2, the monthly activity report. We'll do both July and August, Chief.
I just thought you were wanting to speed things along. Set record pace today. I wasn't
Sorry,
going
that's mine.
to say anything, just speed this right along. So ours are for July and August. Really the highlights in July is, 261 incidents. The one item I always like to bring your attention to is the overlapping calls. We were at 23% for July, and I had both mine up at the same time. We were at 30% in August. Call volume, of course, in the warmer months always goes up. Interesting piece today, I believe we had 3 calls running at one time, and that's starting to be a bit of a norm as well. So whenever we talk about manpower and apparatus and personnel, and ambulances for that matter too, it's not uncommon. I can't remember if it was today or yesterday where there were multiple EMS calls going on and there were no ambulances and no fire trucks left. Actually, Michaela took one of the EMS calls. Yeah, we had a CARES person literally one floor down from one of the EMS calls, so Michaela actually handled one of the EMS calls for us. So just going to show you that the call volume in the city and the amount of activity is probably the best way of describing it, continues to increase. And that EMS call that she took was a legit difficulty breathing or something like that. I can't recall exactly what it was, but it was not a CARES call that she went to. She was at a CARES call and went a floor up to an EMS call. So we're very busy. There wasn't any notable fires inside the city, meaning building structures. There were some out-of-district responses that we went to. And again, the numbers just keep going up and up and up. So pending any other specific questions.
I'm curious as to why those numbers are going up. Are people more aware of just reaching out for help, or is there actually more distress and,
Are you talking about CARES or EMS and
Well,
fire? Calls in general?
you just said calls are going up, you had 3 trucks out,
And
and then
I
you
don't
had to
know.
call in.
There's not a rational
Reinforcements.
answer, and I will definitely defer if you have a rational answer as to why this occurs, because
We've seen 2 different things. We've seen where, because we kind of map it based off of population, and we've mapped it out to kind of where we're seeing more of those calls, kind of like a hot map idea. And we have seen as the community continues to build, those areas are getting more calls than we've had before. So in areas where we've added hotels, we've seen more calls in those areas than we've ever had before, which truly makes sense in reference to population. But we've also seen since COVID that medically, patients are more unstable because for a period of time, they decided to kind of avoid the healthcare system because the fear of getting infected, the fear of getting sick, those kinds of situations, and we're now playing that catch up. So those are 2 things that we've noticed from the healthcare side. I don't know anything, I'm not the person who discuss fire side, but I know from the healthcare side, for sure, we've noticed both of those things.
So you mentioned where there are more hotels now. Are those calls coming from the hotels? Are these people that are out of town, or just,
It's a mix. It's not one or the other, for sure. It's a mix of things. Some of it is on weekends, when you can tell that if the hotel numbers are up, that they're there for medical reasons or traumatic injuries, or, during the summer, we had the big softball tournament. And I know we had some incidents that happened where they got hurt on the field, but then they thought they could handle the injury and things like that, and they would go back to the hotel and then realize, no, this hurts pretty bad, and then call 911 from there too. So we've noticed just kind of that influx based off of just population and how that kind of changes in the summer months and things like that too. So, yeah, because we keep a hot map of calls.
And just to dovetail off that, not all of them are EMS. I mean, just for example, last night, there was a car crash and then a vehicle fire that came in right on top of it. So they're not all EMS related. They're just the activity. Of course, that was around rush hour too, so that always makes numbers increase a little bit. So it's just volume and activity. That's probably one of the best ways to describe it. So pending any other questions?
thank you. Thank you. I just find it interesting. We're growing, and there's growing pains.
Any other questions? All right. Let's now move to the monthly expenditure reports. We'll start with the operating fund in July. 2020-43. Chief, anything to point out there?
Not of any real significance. I would say we're on par for where we need to be at this time of the year. Keeping in mind some of the fuel fluctuations and other things that we've had, we've put some measures in place to kind of slow down some of our diesel spending. And I think we've seen some of the results of that in a positive manner. Also just, projects that we're getting, that we've pushed off till the end of the year, and probably some of the transition as well from chief to chief. You're probably going to see a little bit more expenditures coming in this last quarter than you did the first quarter of the year because of the transition. So there's lots of projects and other things that we're starting to get done and get on track. A lot of the trainings that were scheduled, a lot of them were in the summer and the fall. So you're going to see some of those expenses coming through.
All right. Questions for the July operating budget? If not, is there a motion to approve those as presented?
I so move.
Thanks, Gordy. Is there a second?
I'd second.
Appreciate it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Staying in July, the Equipment Replacement Fund, 4410. Looks like there was a little activity in there.
You're going to see the first due expenditures that went through a couple months ago now through Council and Board of Public Works is now coming up for the payment that it's the add-on. But conversely, what you're not going to see is the emergency reporting fees fall off. So those were in there. Again, a lot of our services that come due every year, testing for ladder testing, hose testing, SCBA testing, air pack repairs, you name it. A lot of that stuff is in there.
I think there's a vehicle in here.
There's a new Tahoe that was brought in there, and again, we moved one vehicle up in the rotation due to an addition of a CARES person. So having to do a little bit of a fleet shuffle, moved one vehicle up faster in the order than next year. But we've been able to repurpose all those vehicles. Plus, we're gonna wind up surplusing, selling, donating, whatever, one of our older vehicles that has 290,000 miles on it, I think. Yeah. Michaela drove the wheels off that thing, in other words. So it's served its purpose well, and it's gonna be put out to pasture probably.
Is that the one they affectionately referred to as Barney?
Yes, that's the purple people eater.
Purple people eater.
Yes,
sir.
it's done. It served its community well.
All right. Any questions or comments regarding the Equipment Replacement Fund for July? If not, is there a motion to approve those expenditures as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Moving on, item 5 would be the August operating fund first, 2020, 2243. Again, those expenditures have been presented. Any expenditures of note? Chief?
I am going through, because I don't recall, the fuels are usually always the biggest ones in there, gasoline, diesel, and they're about where they need to be. But no, other than payroll, I don't recall any big ones. No, I don't think so.
Doesn't look like it, just operational expenses. Questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the operating fund expenditures for August, Fund 2020, 2243?
I make the motion to approve.
So a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. So, finally, Equipment Replacement Fund for August. Looked like it was just a small amount, about $5,000. Doesn't appear to be any large expenditures. Questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the equipment replacement expenditures as presented?
I so move.
Thanks, Gordy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. With no unfinished business, let's move into new business. Chief, this is One Solution Freedom Fire application request. Want to talk a little about that?
This is an application that is actually already widely used in the county for law enforcement. It's called Freedom Law on their side. Ours is going to be Freedom Fire. What it does is essentially give us CAD real-time data inside the vehicles. So First Due also does that. The bonus of having this is this gives us a two-way conversation with CAD, meaning status buttons. Big picture, what that does is eliminate a lot of the radio traffic that's very unnecessary inside the rigs, and as the county gets busier as a whole, we chew up a lot of the operations channels very quickly when we start going on EMS and fire calls. So it'll reduce a lot of radio traffic for dispatch, which means they don't have to converse with us, we don't have to converse with them, at least initially to start with. Gives us real CAD data, real time either. So what that does is eliminate the human factor out of times, and that's something we're trying to dial in with as we talk about data up here nonstop about heat maps, overlapping calls, cost for runs. I can actually see the apparatus as well with this application. So unlike First Due, I can literally see where every car that has a iPad in it, where they are in the district. So not so much for me, but for the battalion chiefs, when they're trying to orchestrate the shift and take calls, especially when they overlap like that, they can resource vehicles better. So who's closer? Are they marking in over here? Can I get them over there? It's a game changer. It's a force multiplier for us. So again, law enforcement, the county uses it already in all their cars, and it's dispatch enabled already. It's gone through Board of Public Works already and our IT committee with approvals. And actually, we're already using it for CARES detail. Do you want to explain that piece just a smidge? Because that is unique for us.
What we decided to do when we started the CARES program is we wanted to really have notes shared with law enforcement. So if they knew we were dealing with somebody at a certain address, they could see our notes, we could see theirs. And we can make those calls and mark on station when we're there. It does save a lot of time. It really does. And as Chief Mayo said, I think one of the knocks we had a little bit the last time we went through ISO was accurate times.
Yeah.
And this alleviates that concern from the ISO rating part two. So, and you're probably gonna say that, I beat you to it.
No, that's great. That's perfect. Yep.
But what we use it for is when we go on a scene, we can actually make notes in there, and then law enforcement can see what we're doing. If we've been to a house before, we can see previous notes, they can see our notes. It's just a good exchange of information. The Freedom Fire app is basically just a little bit down a different road than the Freedom Law app, which is what we currently use. What we use does not have all the law enforcement stuff on it. We can't see stuff we're not supposed to, but it does allow us to share that information. So we're hopeful that this will continue that and allow us to look at those things as well. So it should be a good transition for us, I would think. I think Joe Fretz has been using it.
Yep.
I've been using it. Michaela's using it. And I think you've been on it now for a while
Yep.
with the fire sites.
Right.
We've been on it for a little while. It's a pretty easy app to use. It just is an extension of what we're already doing. So it should be good.
Cost doesn't look too prohibitive either. $1,600.
That $1,600 is essentially $160 per device. So we put about 10 iPads in there for all the apparatus, including staff vehicles that have them. So yeah, not bad. There was a discussion I just had with the county the other day, though, that I wasn't aware of quite, that there could be a maintenance fee attached to this that wasn't from Central Square. It's more of the county IT and county commissioners, county council. Law enforcement shares it globally. So based on the size of their organization is how much they pay for maintenance for a year. I don't know what that number is yet. That was a conversation I wasn't privy to until after all of this was done, and I was waiting on a signature for county to say, yep, let's implement it 100%, because we're ready on our end. We're done with everything we've done. Having discussions with county IT, I was brought into the loop of there's a small little glitch of a conversation. So I don't have any of those numbers yet. I'm waiting for a little bit more feedback from county IT as what that looks like. So.
You'd mentioned that it does similar to what you've got on your,
So First Due,
First Due.
I call that more of like a data warehouse RMS system for our run reporting, for pre-plans, inspections, hydrants. Freedom Fire is similar but different. They really do different things for us. That's why we're getting out of emergency reporting and going strictly with First Due to consolidate the data warehousing. Freedom Fire is really not data warehousing. It is for some of the CARES notes, but it's CAD side of life, whereas First Due is our data warehousing.
So what does the anachronism CAD stand for?
Computer aided dispatch.
Computer computer data.
Computer-aided dispatch,
Aided
Mhm.
dispatch.
CAD.
Okay. And these work strictly on iPads that are
They can work on almost anything.
in vehicles? We said you
Yes.
had 10.
Yes, we do. We put iPads in all the rigs and all the staff cars.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
There's other devices out there, I'm sure you've heard the term Toughbook, if that's
Oh.
ever been said before. EMS, does EMS use Toughbooks? So- okay. Yeah, so it just depends on what device you've got in your vehicle. Toughbook is very expensive. iPads are very cheap, comparatively speaking, and fairly rugged. Is that a good description?
I think so.
Yeah.
So are you in this system too?
No.
Okay.
We use a different.
Okay.
But what this does is it gives you real time where all your units are, and everyone in those units knows where everybody's at.
Correct, correct. And when we hit the status buttons, and I probably glazed over that really quickly, but that is really one of the biggest components of this whatsoever, because dispatch doesn't have to wait for us to talk, we don't have to wait for them to talk. The firefighters literally get in the truck, hit en route, hit on scene, and no talking has to take place.
I need to come over and see this.
It's very awesome.
It's real-time capture.
It is.
And these numbers even change. in
Oh, they
their-
will.
Yeah.
They
It's
will.
analytics of firefighting.
Because.
Does dispatch have this capability?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're already doing it with law enforcement in the entire county. I'm not aware of any.
But they'll be tied into your system?
Yes, and it really is one and the same when we talk about dispatch. Dispatch is fire and law and EMS all at the same time. It just depends on how they punch the call out, basically.
So Chief, are any of the other out of our territory fire companies, are they using this too, or?
No, but they're eagerly waiting to see what happens with ours. I
Okay.
mean, I've had a couple chiefs that have inquired saying, hey, what are you doing with that? How's it look? And I keep telling them, I can't really tell you yet because we haven't implemented it, but it's gonna be a game changer.
So at the end of the day, you used to rely on radio communication.
Absolutely.
To ascertain someone's location. Now all you have to do is look on this thing.
Yes, yeah.
How's Neater gonna get to a fire to get a picture?
Oh, he's still here. I'm sure I'm still
Just not his
get on
time.
his phone or
I
whatever.
think the one point that Chief Mayo didn't say, and I know he's very aware of this, because he's done his homework on what we should be using, is that First Due will notify us of a run, and we can use that a little bit, but if the dispatcher's busy, they may not send that out for 5 minutes, if they're really busy.
Correct.
With the first, the Freedom apps, it's there as soon as they hit the button. Like, as soon as they put that call in their system, they hit it, then we know, and we can stay live. Because we talked about doing it the First Due, but
Yeah, appreciate
really,
that.
there was a delay component there that wouldn't fix the accurate timekeeping that is part of this equation. I think that's the best way to put that.
For-
And then we looked at MDTs and we looked
Yeah.
at all sorts of different concepts on how to do this, and this is cost effective. and it's
First Due,
clean.
First Due will also not go back through CAD. So too many firewalls, too many legal issues, but First Due does not communicate with CAD, whereas Freedom Fire does. So the information can be punched out and we can get it from First Due and it goes to our phones, but you cannot hit en route and go back through CAD.
Right.
It's kind of a one-way street, but Freedom Fire is a two-way street.
Huh, interesting.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
Yes, sir.
All right. Questions? Any further questions? Chief Mayo, we didn't get into this as detailed in Board of Works, but the Board of Works did nonetheless approve this and certainly ask for your vote of confidence on this new application.
So you need a motion to approve, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So made.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. All right, travel requests, we'll start with September. There appear to be a few.
Interestingly enough, most of these classes have already happened. They were all well received. We've gotten some really quality training in through summer and coming into fall, and even more classes in this last quarter. So yeah, these are just your general requests, but most of these have taken place already.
All right, any questions?
I make a motion to approve the travel requests.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And we'll move on to October's requests.
Some of these have occurred already, but there are some coming up. I don't know if I want to talk about the hostage negotiation one, because it sounds wrong, but that is one that Chief Fansel is going to be attending if it is approved. Is it there?
Yep.
It's live, it's going, okay.
Yes, sir.
Chris can, of course, elaborate if you have questions, but this is really going to be, this is a shared venture between PD and FD, and it actually bleeds over into CARES a little bit too, for crisis intervention discussions. And so hostage negotiation to me sounds a little, I don't know, SWAT-ish or something, but it's really not. It's just how to talk to people better, and if you want to elaborate, please do.
I don't know how far you want.
I mean, is there any questions about this class?
No, we sat down and had the discussion about it, and I felt very comfortable with the way they were teaming together to do it. I wouldn't mind just a quick one-on-one on what's going on.
So, PD obviously has a SWAT team, they go out when they're needed. They have one person I think right now that's a negotiator, been through the training. They're asking if we'd be interested in coming out when we have somebody who maybe doesn't want to come out of their house, but is having some suicidal issues or some mental health crisis issues. When we started really talking about it, I think we all felt more comfortable if I went through some training so that we had that as another tool instead of just doing it as is. I mean, I've been through a lot of classes already, but we felt this was more focused. So we kind of came together and decided that we're going to step into this and see what it looks like and how it comes together and see how we can best utilize it while keeping me not from having to do anything that's not. I'm not going to be part of the SWAT team. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not built for it. It's not going to happen unless I'm too old for that. But I can certainly go out when they're having those people that maybe don't want to come out of the house and they don't want to hurt anybody. They don't want to get anyone hurt. I can come out and have those conversations. We just felt like being a little more trained in that area was the best idea. So I think next week is the first 2 phases of that course, and then there's another week in November, and then there'll be a certification after those 2 weeks of training. So we'll have that added into play.
Questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve the October travel request?
I just wanted to add, I thought maybe you had questions concerning that. I just wanted to know about the annual certification, 2023 CADA annual certification.
Where do you see that?
On page
Joe
1.
Fratz has traveled to Athens,
Oh,
Georgia.
okay. That was for his canine.
For what?
His canine. It's an annual recertification he has to have for his dog, his canine. So, yep, that was, and it moves every year. So I think either last year or year before, it was in Canada, some far outreaching place. So he actually skipped last year, so he really needed to hit this year. And it was down by Atlanta, Georgia, so. And again, it's already happened and taken place, and he said it was a great class. So, good training.
All right.
Okay.
So is there a motion to approve the travel requests from October?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Gordy, appreciate it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, any other matters come before the board? Chief, I just want you to maybe talk just a little bit about some of the exercises that we had. I know there was a exercise with NIPSCO about a gas leak. It was a tabletop exercise, and then I believe it was last month, there was a county exercise. Just briefly discuss.
Yeah, it seems like summer, fall are the busiest seasons for everybody to get their training out just because of the weather, but there was the LEPC hazmat drill that actually EMA coordinates that, but we have a good chunk of that one. It was a chemical release. I was told it went very well, and they do it on the weekend to incorporate other fire agencies, primarily the volunteer fire departments, so they can come on the weekend and participate, and they had a good showing. Mayor's right, there was a NIPSCO training that was tabletop 2 weeks ago, I'm thinking now. again, good attendance by all 3 shifts, all 3 days. NIPSCO is very accommodating. They've also given us a class on, Gas IQ, which is basically the residential way to handle residential gas lines, which, again, NIPSCO is being very cautious with us in how they train us to do that. But if you go back to how to handle these things during storms or tornadoes and stuff, one of the biggest problems is gas line leaks, and it's usually residential. So we're having good discussions with NIPSCO and their personnel on how to mediate those residential lines, because those are a little bit more in our backyard. Anything that's about 1.5 inches or bigger, really 2 inches, the one we want to stay away from is metal lines. NIPSCO, of course, we stand back and just let it vent and handle it. So tons of training through the summer. There's more and more coming up. We have a couple more drills that we do with Zimmer Biomet. There's one this week, actually, that's a discussion that's tomorrow morning, I think. So the training never stops, and of course, we try to work with everybody in the community and the county that we can. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other items carried forward or questions? All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Shirley.
I'm fine, how are you? It's a great question because the problems are being more and more.
Got a long day coming up.
That staff is actually pick a lot
You
of
know, look on.
Chris
I gotta
Baker
get
and
out
then
to
Job, so it's gonna be, looks like about 80 hours.
total.
Yes, sir.
Total.
The first.
There's
they
two to
talk a lot
sign
about
there.
theory about, what to say, what not to say. I've got all the, you know,
There's 2 separate ones to
this
sign.
is, they're gonna talk about it.
All right,
We actually talked to the mayor, that may come back and say, we need to spend some money on what they.
I'll have my,
Like telephones.
from the mayor article
Person, things like that.
Thursday this week, yeah.
I will,
They are somewhat predictable.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's nice to have. when
What's
you're-
that?
yes.
Yeah.
So I've been around some of those guys, that training's pretty intense.
They have,
Don't ask him.
lives in the city, he's also part of the.
Oh, yeah, Jamie, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said,
so
that night on my way to
they have
council,
one